Hello everyone. In this video we are going to look at how to use memset in a function and where it can be used and why it is used. So memset, basically it is used to set fixed values, especially in the strings, but you could use it for the integers or some non-string types as well, but you need to be careful that it is going to write a byte only. So that's what I'm going to just demonstrate to you how this behaves. So basically it's mainly it can be used for array types, but especially if you are creating an array statically allocating memory. But if you are dynamically creating the memory, instead of malloc you could use calloc, because that will give you an initialized value already. So mostly you are using memset for initializing an array of data, a continuous memory. We're trying to use it. So let me try to create some variables. So let's assume that I wanted to create an array of 100 size, or let me first start with the character, because this is mainly for the character. So I create an 100 character array, and now I'm going to so now if I wanted to initialize this character array into some value, because this is uninitialized, so you see in memory it could be any values, but before you use it, if you may want to make sure that it is having the right data, and that's where this memset is useful. So we call memset, and the prototype is you pass the string void pointer and how many bytes you want. So what is the value you wanted to initialize with, and the size of it. So let me call memset here, and memset I call this char array, and because memset is a void pointer, and you need to make sure that you are typecasting it to the right type. So basically it is the char array is a character type, isn't it? So that is what we are passing this to initialize this value. And now we need to say how many values. So this is 100 bytes or 100 characters. Let us assume that I wanted to initialize only 10 values. First one is what value you wanted to assign. So let us assume that I wanted to assign a value called q, a character q, and then I wanted to assign only 10 characters in them. So now I just assign a variable I, and this is just to iterate this so that you can see exactly how, or whether this is assigned the values correctly or not. So now I use this iterate, the for loop, just to iterate through so that I can print out all those values to see whether it is initialized correctly and what happens to the other values and all. So now let us assume that I wanted to print out 20 characters in here. So and now I'm just going to print this through. So let me first get what location it is, and then I just print out this characters percentage c, and now the next line as well. So now I am going to print this I value, because that is the location where it is printing, and then the actual character, so which is character array, isn't it? So char array is the value that we wanted to print it out. So here I'm going to now basically I allocated some memory here. It's a character variable I allocated, and then I am setting this values only the 10 bytes. So from starting from 0 to 9, this value will be initialized to q, and rest of them it shouldn't initialize, but to check that I am printing 20 characters to see how it looks like. So only thing you need to make sure is to use the memset, you need to make sure that you include this string.h, and for if you use malloc and calloc, you need the standard lib.h, but mainly the memset you need the string.h. Okay, so now let us build this. So let us say GCC and what is the C file, and then /o, and what out file you want. I call it as just out. So it just builds okay, and then I say out. So you can see, guys, up to 0 to 9 it is initialized queue correctly, and then afterwards it's just some junk, whatever the stack has got. So we cannot ensure what value it is. So this is where it is really useful. So you can make sure that you got correct character, or so you could make it as a null character or any character by using this memset you want. So the memset is mainly for the strings and because it is accepting the string. But how can I use this for integer? So you can still use it for the integer as well. So if for example, if I allocate another 100 integers, for if I call this as integer, so now I am allocating integer of a size of 100, and if I wanted to assign this integer array to a value of say, let us say that 1 2 as a fixed value, if I wanted to allocate for the first 10 characters. So this needs to point to the integer because it is an integer type that we are assigning, and we are assigning a value of 12 for each integer. So if we do that, and we will see how the output is. So so now this is going, let me just remove, or let us have that character as well, so that we can see it in the together. So now I'm going to print out this integer as well, and the integer array I'm going to print that as well. So basically what we will be thinking that it could happen is it will print out first 0 to 9 integers as 12. But it is not the case, guys. So let us run this, and then we will see what the output of this. So basically I'm assigning this 12 for the 10 integer characters, integer values of int array, which is 100 size, but I'm going to print out only 20 of them. So let me build this and then run this. So what let me make it as hexadecimal as well, because I'm assigning hexadecimal, so that it is easy to look this up, what values it is. So you could see this hexadecimal 12 is being assigned to each byte, and only the first 10 bytes, so 4 8 9 10, and after that you see some junk character. So basically the integer is occupying 4 bytes, so first 4 bytes and second 4 bytes and then next 2 bytes. So only those 10 values as being assigned to the integer. So the memset, what it does is, so even though it says int c, it is the size, this value will be allocated to the character. So, and that is the reason this prototype is string. So you can very well assign a value 0 here, for example, but that 0 will be assigned to a 10 character. So it is again first 10 bytes only. So that means always this size of, if you are assigning a value of to an integer, you shouldn't be assigning this to a byte. So instead you should say if it is 10 characters that you wanted to initialize. So let us go back to 12 here, and if you wanted to initialize 10 integers, so you always should say 10 times size of int, for example. So that means it will be, you need to assign this value to 40 bytes, not 10 bytes. So let us run this to see. So this should at least now print out the whole. So now at least 0 to 9 it is allocating, but still 0 to 9 it is allocating byte by byte, not the integer value. So mainly if you are initializing, normally you will be initializing this value to 0. So if you want to initialize this to 0, for example, then it will be easier. So you can get what you want. So basically you can see now all the values are 0. So my intention was the first 10 integers I wanted to initialize this to 0, and I call this as 10 into size of int, and that means it initialized all these values to 0. So in that way you could use it for integers, but otherwise it is always the value that is passed here should be a byte. So let me show you one more thing. So let us assume that you are thinking this as an integer, and you say it 1 2 3 4 5 6 7, for example. This is the value you are passing. But what's going to happen is when it is initializing, it will initialize this last value. So say for example 7 8. So it will initialize this value as 7 8 only here. So let me run this. Okay, so now it is initializing all these values 7 8. So even though you pass this as a bigger number, all this rest of the numbers are ignored. Okay, so that is only a downside of it. So you need to be careful about how you are initializing. So basically you can initialize using the memset only a byte size. So this is mainly used when you are allocating this in a hardware. You get some memory allocated and you are initializing it and things like that. But if you are using a dynamic memory allocation, for example, you don't need to use it. Instead you can use calloc. So calloc will give you an initialized value to 0 already, instead of using malloc. Malloc is not initialized, but calloc is initialized, so you normally will be using that. But otherwise memset can be used, especially if you wanted to initialize this value to 0, and make sure if it is data type character, your number of bytes or number of characters or whatever the characters you give. But if it is other than character, if it is for example unsigned 16, so you need to give 10 into 2 so that you can initialize this 20 bytes with them, with whatever the 0 values you are passing. Or if it is integer, for example, so the size is 4, so you should be initializing 40 bytes. Yeah, so that is the only thing I wanted to share you while you are using this memset. You need to be careful. Yeah, many thanks guys for watching, and I hope it is useful for you. Thank you.